Congrats on being here because you are going to level up so much from this episode. And that is thanks to you for submitting your amazing, deep, and thoughtful questions that we're going to answer today in this very special Q&A episode. Think of this kind of like an advice column. I actually got this term from my friend where advice columns used to be in magazines and things like that before the rise of social media. Dang, I just aged myself so much. Welcome to your A+ life, where we explore the mindsets that make it easier for us to live our best, most fulfilled life and reach our potential. I'm Amy. I graduated from a top 10 school and majored in chemical engineering, but I'm not using any of what I learned anymore because I worked as a management consultant as my first full-time job for 1.5 years. And now I'm doing more entrepreneurial things, including running this podcast and my main channel on YouTube, which now has, I think, 330,000 subscribers. Wow, we're growing so fast. It's insane and super exciting. Thanks for your support if you came here from my main channel. Like I announced in my episode about how to deal with toxic relationships, this podcast is now on Spotify and Apple Music, so make sure to check that out. You can also check out that previous episode about toxic relationships and setting boundaries, because that's where I explain how I'm going to be balancing this YouTube channel's posts with Spotify and Apple Music. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, please leave me a comment about how you think I'm doing and give me a 5-star review because that helps so much. If you want to leave anything other than 5 stars, then before you do that, please provide me feedback either through a comment or an email. I would find that so helpful, so thank you. It's dark today, moody. We got our lovely string lights, is that what they're called, behind. Throwback to when TikTok first became a trend and everyone was buying these, including myself. I just came back from the gym, sweaty, no makeup, so this is gonna be a very comfy, kind of like sleepover session, I suppose, where I'm just gonna spill my immediate first thoughts to your questions. And I guarantee you will get some value and thought-provoking insights from this because, again, you asked some great questions like about how to deal with anger, how to deal with your own self-worth based on your success. You also asked me about imposter syndrome, dealing with perfectionism, how to build confidence, and more. So without further ado, let's go into question 1 from Sid597. Hey, Amy, it's cool that now we'll get more mindset-related and self-help content. Appreciate the efforts. Thanks for noticing that. Request overcoming anger if you can, because I sometimes find it hard not to lash out and it's increasing with time. So Sid is asking how to deal with anger and not lashing out. I wanted to start with this question because today I was actually dealing with extreme anger myself. Something happened earlier today that made me just bubble up like a volcano where I was almost irrationally angry. I couldn't think of how to deal with anything logically. I couldn't even think what is the root cause and how can I move on from this? Like, is there anything I can do to fix the problem? I was just overcome with emotion in that moment. I didn't even feel like I could do anything next. I had so many things on my to-do list and I was just looking at it like this anger in my chest, these thoughts swirling in my head, filling up all my mental space. I just feel incapable of doing anything productive right now. So what I did was I forced myself to just go to the gym because I needed somewhere to vent my anger out to or to lash out. Because I think of anger like a volcano, right? It's something inside where it's really hard to just push it down and to cool yourself off. It has to come out. There's steam, right? Steam, if you try to keep it in, it's gonna add more pressure and explode even more. That's why I don't think we should necessarily keep things in. But if you know that lashing out at someone, blaming someone, or using your emotions that way is not appropriate, which oftentimes it isn't. It's often not productive. What I like to do is go to my go-to outlet, which is to work out, because I feel like when I push myself a lot physically, that is something to distract me, but it is at the same time releasing serotonin. You're physically shifting the balance of neurotransmitters such that you'll feel happier. And at that moment of making that decision, I was so angry that it's almost like I didn't believe that I could feel happier. I didn't have faith that going to the gym would calm me down because I was just so angry in that moment. When you're angry, it just feels like you can't come down. So I went anyway. I went on the Stairmaster and I switched it up to a much higher intensity than I usually do. I went on that without music for about 3 minutes, and then I was like, okay, let me put on my I'm Hype playlist. Cringy title, I know. And that music triggered the memories of feeling like a boss working out. That psychological association of when I was happy. After going on that Stairmaster for 16 minutes, I completed 100 floors. Wow. It was like magic. I can't even explain it. It was like magic. It's really an amazing outlet because instead of, punching a wall, punching your pillow, or screaming, you are pouring yourself into some other physical activity that's like explosive. And it's productive. Working out is so productive. So I surprised myself today because even though I did that in the past and that worked, when you're so angry, you don't believe it at the time. So what I suggest is finding something like that, an outlet. Oftentimes it's physical. Some people like to run. Some people like to go back to a hobby like playing the piano, just something that takes them back to that happy place. But you have to keep in mind that even when things feel hopeless, that's when you have to just act. Don't think, just do. You don't even have to believe that it will work, but in that moment, because you can control your own body, you just go make your body do what you think will be good for it. And like magic, it will just help. So that was my long-ish story and explanation of how I deal with my anger. I also find that my anger and irritability tends to increase when I have put myself in a position to feel bad. And that's after I use too much social media. Like if I have been going down a rabbit hole and looking at people's Instagrams, I will subconsciously feel inadequate. And then I can more easily lash out for no reason and sound annoyed to people who did nothing to me in real life. Like my fiance might just be cooking dinner and I'd be like, why are you doing this or something? So I think it's really important to be aware of that, and it's really, really hard not to compare yourself on social media. So that's why I've severely reduced my usage overall. Also, for each of these answers, please feel free to give me any follow-up questions in the comments. Let me know how helpful that was. These are going to be answers, of course, from my experience, my perspective, but I know I don't understand fully your specific situation or whether I even hit the point you're asking. So please let this be a back and forth conversation. From Priyanka, first of all, wanted to say, your podcast is so cool. I love it and it's very helpful. Thank you, Priyanka. Her question is, how do you constantly stay positive about the future and yourself? I try to stay positive, but sometimes whenever something really sad or depressing happens, I kind of lose hope and I feel very scared at night, and it makes just day-to-day life feel very boring and useless. Thank you. Everyone experiences this. I think that's the first very important thing to understand, because we can get so caught up in our own worlds that we're like, why is this happening to me? Why does my life suck? Why am I in this rut? But once we understand that everyone goes through this and that life cannot always be happy and feeling successful, feeling fulfilled, then that's when we have acceptance for the bad days. I've been in several ruts myself, even maybe like a month ago, where I was like, oh, why am I putting this, like, why do I have to do all these things and forcing myself to do more things? In that rut, you don't feel the drive you once had. You no longer see the reason you started. And even if you remind yourself of it, it kind of feels empty and from a third party point of view. So I definitely understand. So Mark Manson, he wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F word. So the F, 4-letter word, it's spelled out. So that's why I'm not saying, I don't curse. Basically, he explains that a great life is not with absence of struggle. There's a story of a king and a prince. The king wanted his little prince to grow up the happiest he could be. He provided everything in the castle. The prince didn't have to worry about a thing. He had the best clothes, best activities, best food. But the prince was unhappy. He searched for struggle. You might be thinking, wow, I feel so bad. Why the heck would someone choose to struggle? Well, it's because struggle is a beautiful part of life. It shows that you are growing, and that means we're trying to find fulfillment. Because if we're happy all the time, sunshine and rainbows, and we have a vacation every day, we are actually not going to feel fulfilled. So therefore, not actually internally content. So the more you chase happiness, the farther away it actually gets from you. A really eye-opening part of Mark Manson's book is where he explains that happiness requires struggle. The positive is the side effect of handling the negative. Just like when I'm struggling right now doing these entrepreneurial things, I'm feeling so lost and just clueless about what to do sometimes. And I'm like, why don't I have anyone in my life to help me with this? I don't have a map to follow. Everyone else seems to just know what they're doing. But I realized that that's a struggle I picked. I picked to take this entrepreneurial path, and with every path comes new and different struggles. There is no path that doesn't come with struggles. It's about which struggles you prefer. That's also from the book. So when I was in consulting, the good part was maybe people are telling me what to do, but that was also the struggle. I didn't like people telling me what to do, especially when I didn't agree with what they were telling me to do. I was also staying up until like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., doing things that I didn't think to me were that important. But now I willingly stay up till 2 a.m. working on things I think are important. And sure, that's a struggle. I might lose a little sleep, but that is my choice. When you choose your struggle, it doesn't bring you down as much because you are in control. You picked what situation you were put into. So if you are younger or you're stuck in a certain job, I know it might feel like, well, I didn't pick this struggle, but we can think of ways to move into the path we would rather have. So if you're in school, like I was in school, then I knew I had to be in school anyway. So I'm going to work as hard as I can in the situation I'm given, such that I can build my human capital and give myself options for after I graduate. Then I will have more freedom and my own independent power to pick a different path. It's easier said than done to stay positive, because relating to the first question's answer, another thing I do to make myself have a better outlook on the future is I talk to a loved one, someone who I trust and who lifts my spirits. And right now, most of the time, because I live with him, that's Sean, my fiance. So maybe for you, that could be a best friend, that could be a sibling, your mom or your dad or your dog. What I also like to use for myself, if I don't have anyone around me in that moment, is to remind me of my cookie jar. This concept is from David Goggins, who is an ultra marathon runner. His story is incredible because he went from an incredibly obese guy working as an exterminator to become a Navy SEAL and run ultra marathons and set Guinness World Records. He was at rock bottom, but he found that he needed to get the ball rolling. And once the ball starts rolling, that's when it will be easier and easier to stay positive. How do you get the ball rolling? You overcome something. You have this little achievement, and then you put that little achievement into your cookie jar. Your cookie jar is like your repertoire of past achievements or past struggles that you overcame. So every time you feel down, you will reach back into your cookie jar and remind yourself of the things you've already overcome and how you are capable of getting through what you're going through right now, because you've done hard things in the past as well. That's why this will get you on a roll, because now when you overcome your current difficult time, when you overcome your current rut, that will also be added to your cookie jar and you will get stronger and stronger. That's how someone like David Goggins went from obese to super shredded and now an amazing motivational speaker. Okay, a fun one. How to start a YouTube channel. Any tips? Boy, do I have a ton of tips. But my number one is you cannot start a YouTube channel because you want to start a YouTube channel. You cannot be like, oh, I want to be online and share my life and talk to a camera because that seems cool and maybe I'll earn some money from it. No. You have to have the attitude that you want to start a channel because you have something to say. You just have to get it out. You have something to share with the world and only you can be the one that tells it. You're just itching to share it with the world. And the YouTube channel or whatever platform just becomes the tool by which you share your story, your experiences, your value, whatever that you think is just calling to you. This is what happened to all of my successful platforms I made. So my first YouTube channel actually was a singing channel with my sister I created back in 2017. I had never thought I would start a YouTube channel. It was never a desire. It was never even a consideration because I felt like people who started YouTube channels and people like Jen Im and Ryan Higa, who I watched in the past, they were just like a different species of human being. It was like entrepreneur was to me as a kid. It was like something I would never touch. It was not part of my world, not part of my life possibilities. But I got into this K-pop group called BTS, where their songs and lyrics were great. I love singing, so I wanted to sing them. I found that many international fans felt the same. They wish that they could sing and understand their songs. So it really pulled at me to do something, and I got this idea with my sister. What if we rewrite their Korean lyrics to be singable English ones and we make them into karaoke's, because we would love to use them, and I think that is filling a hole on the internet that we just got to be the ones to do this. We have this idea, no one's doing it, like we got to do it. We are filling a need that people have. We might be the only ones who have this idea. So that's what really pushed us to do it. YouTube just became the means by which to do it. And you know what? That's why we grew so quickly, because it truly was a need that other people didn't really have the idea for how to fix. And then with my main channel right now, which is the one with like 330,000 subscribers, that one I started also because I was just itching to tell people about Caltech. Caltech is an extremely unique school. It has fewer than 1,000 undergrad total, smaller than my high school, and it's like Hogwarts. There are 8 houses, all with different personalities. There's kind of a sorting hat process, and it's magical how kids just get through it. Why do I say kids like I'm so old? No, I got through that too. Anyway, I was just thinking someone has to make a channel that gives day in the life vlogs. You know what? If I am so passionate about someone else doing this, then I should do it. I take be the change you want to see in the world very seriously. Finally, with this podcast, honestly, I have been wanting to make a podcast for a while simply because I had so many things I wanted to share. I had this idea for like 2 years now. I had so many more things I wanted to share and talk about in depth that I thought would be helpful to others. Because there's only so much you can do in a normal YouTube video. I feel like speaking more from the heart, candidly, is valuable. And what finally pushed me to do it was having this really deep conversation with one of my friends, and then the subsequent episodes was just me ranting to a camera because suddenly I was so passionate about this one topic and I had many ideas in my head, and I was like, you know what? Let me ramble to a camera and let's plug a mic in just in case. Let's make sure the audio is okay. And then I was like, wow, I actually spoke pretty well. Let's put this on the YouTube and say this is a podcast, because I think it qualifies for one. It's pretty good. Well, now I sound arrogant, but you got to be self-aware. Sometimes you can do great things, right? I feel like one of my strengths is just talking out of my butt and saying things that tend to be somewhat helpful or insightful. Anyway, long story short, that is how I created my channel. That also answers someone else's question. Why did you decide to make a YouTube channel? Let me know in the comments if you would like some dedicated videos about my YouTube advice. I've been wanting to share my tips for a long time because they are also things that no one else on YouTube talks about, but I just don't know where to put them. I don't know if people would really care on this podcast. So anyway, let me know. Thank you. You are also helpful. This community is amazing. Shout out to you. Drop a like if you are amazing. Lusala Mudima asks, hi, Amy. Thank you so much for being so supportive, even in the long journey. Oh, of course. I would love if you can talk about exploring values and passion to discover life's purpose. Whew, we are getting deep here. It took me a while to discover my passion. But I think values I found earlier because of how my parents are immigrants and they told me about their stories of struggle of living very, very, very frugally. So the privileged life I have now, I knew it was because of hard work, dedication, resilience, that mental strength that I always talk about, the right mindset. See, that value led me to act in alignment with those values in school, in my extracurriculars, in sports. And so that led to certain achievements which reinforced that value. And so what's interesting, I didn't know at the time, but this value would carry into all aspects of my experience such that now I have my passion of sharing that value and experience with you. So I think that's why value and passion is kind of tied together, where like for me, my passion now is sharing those experiences that I had and how I got to where I am because of those values. So you can kind of evaluate patterns of your actions and why you act in the way you do. I reflect a lot. I think that's super important. So, for example, I would get like irrationally upset when I see a really smart student make choices that aren't so good for themselves, or when, honestly, I get so annoyed when I see people scroll on their phone so much. That's like a pet peeve. And I get annoyed when I feel like I have to throw something away, or when there's food waste. Okay, so these things I realize all tie into my value of not wasting things. That's why I care a lot about fulfilling potential, because the opposite of that would be wasting it, right? So that is my value, but it's also my passion and what I do right now. So long story short, I think it's you just have to live and keep trying new things and reflecting. Those are the two things. Have fun while doing it, because when I didn't find my passion and life's purpose and I felt really unfulfilled, it was a pretty dark time. And that was when I was in the beginning of my consulting journey, by the way. So what I did was I explored new things by reading books, by learning from other people's stories and almost living vicariously through them. So if I didn't have the time to go live my own adventures, maybe I can live through the adventures of other people and learn more about myself at the same time. So even when I didn't know my purpose and I was feeling lost, I kind of had fun with it by being like, you know what? That means I have all these options available to me. Let's find out and explore. Let's find out who I am. Actually, you're doing a great job right now listening to this podcast. You can also learn from stories through books and movies, like David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. You can also watch movies like 38 at the Garden, Hidden Figures, King Richard. Those are all movies I love and I felt so inspired by. And because I'm so introspective, I realized a lot about myself while watching them. Last night, I literally watched Molly's Game with my mom and sister. That was also fantastic and surprisingly inspirational at the end. I wanted to say the inspirational part, but I won't give it away. If you're younger, please keep in mind that some of these movies might have some language, so fair warning. Finally, the bottom line for discovering life's purpose is that don't feel the pressure of it to be finite. I talked about this in my previous podcast episode with my friend Wesley. But sometimes you can think of life's purpose as just growing, as just fulfilling your potential, as discovering who you are, which seems so circular, but it's like maybe life's purpose is discovering your place in the world, because that's your hero's journey. I believe that something really important is constant growth. Evaluate whether what you're doing throughout the day is contributing to your growth and your learning. One of the best things you can do is learn about yourself, but you can't do that when you're consuming too much unhelpful content or listening to many voices besides your own. Lavender Honey 777 asks, how to forgive myself for so many things I did in the past. Dealing with regret is so hard. I think I'm truly thinking on the spot here. My initial reaction is, who are you now? And would that same person make those mistakes? Because if not, then you don't have to identify yourself with that old person anymore. In fact, embrace that you are who you are now, because if you did not make those mistakes in the past, you probably wouldn't have learned to become the better person you are now. So I think it's not so much like actively forgiving yourself, but it's that that past you is just past you. You didn't know any better, but now you know better. So that's all that matters. Additionally, to forgive yourself, make sure that you addressed what you need to forgive yourself for. So if there was some kind of relationship that you messed up, that you were in the wrong, then go mend it. Take steps to mend the mistake, and then it's easier to forgive yourself because not only have you learned, but you've also made up for your mistake. I do want to mention to you listening, please don't think of me as smarter or wiser or like more capable than you. Oh, this actually relates to a future question, but I would love if you think about how you would answer these questions yourself first. Like I always say, coach yourself, and you learn how to coach yourself by trying to give advice to yourself first. And a great first step to getting better at that is see how you would give advice to other people, so then you can give it to yourself. So if you have thoughts that I didn't cover for a question, then leave them in the comments. So many requests for you to get involved and engage in the comments. I promise it's not just for my engagement. I love it when you all discuss down there and help each other. Okay, I'm gonna mess up your name, so I might not say all of it. I'll just say the last part. Swari asks something about building courage and confidence in our own activities. The headline, confidence comes with competence. That is something I realized. Remember that cookie jar I was talking about earlier? It's literally a flywheel. It's a ball of snow rolling and gets bigger and bigger as it rolls. To kick it off, challenge yourself. It can be even a small thing, and you'll be like, I did that. You will have more trust in yourself, and then the next time you can handle a bigger mountain. Next, you can climb a bigger mountain, and your confidence will continue to grow because you made yourself competent. I love this quote from Alex Hormozy. He's a beast, man. Okay, that wasn't the quote. This is the quote. Confidence without evidence is delusion. You don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. That stack of proof is kind of like the cookie jar. What's interesting is that in this world of self-development and life advice, there are a lot of overlapping and relating ideas. That's because it's almost like a universal truth, right? If I say the sky's blue and someone else says the sky's blue, I'm not like, you stole my idea. It's just the truth. So that's what I find really interesting about how the ideas always end up linking to each other, and how people who are successful pretty much say similar things with different stories and ways, but there are a lot of universal truths. I also believe that to build your confidence, never see someone else as more capable of you. It's easier once you build that competence, of course, but to build the confidence that you can pursue something hard, that you can go after your dream, look at someone who succeeded something amazing. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, they must be like superhuman, so I can never consider achieving that, be like, okay, you did that, so why not me? Of course, this doesn't apply to, winning gold 5 million times like Simone Biles. You cannot start that tomorrow and go to the Olympics, I'm sorry. But for many things, like for me, when I wanted to start YouTube and get an audience who would listen to these things I had to say, when I saw other people, I was like, you know what? I'm no different from you. In fact, I know my strengths and abilities and my work ethic, so whatever you achieve, I can achieve the same thing. And when I say achieve the same thing, it's not like achieve the exact same thing, but it's like I can also find that kind of success. This will also help with your motivation. Like whenever you feel demotivated, I find this happens so much to me. I will start watching a video and there will be lots of positive comments and that person's video is amazing. And I start getting pumped up like, yeah, I can do that too. Let's keep working. Enjoy the process comments how to practice writing even though you hate how you write. You get a lot of how to practice writing even though you hate how you write. You get a lot of mental blocks and getting through with it. Sorry, I don't know why that was so difficult to read. It's funny, your username, enjoy the process. Find some way to enjoy the process. There's your answer. No, so I really hated writing. Writing essays was like the bane of my school experience, but I'm writing like every day now because I have to, and that's how you get your ideas across and share them. Writing is so important. I heard that so many times when I was in high school, and I always wanted to deny it because I didn't like it, but here we are. Turns out it's true. My suggestion for this is to start small and journal. Just write about your day. And the more you do that over time, it'll become so easy that then you can move on to maybe a harder thing. And you will discover your writing style, and you might even improve the way you articulate your thoughts. Sometimes it really takes that first step that is forcing. I don't really like it when people assume that you have to make everything fun. No, sometimes it really is just forcing yourself to do the unfun thing the first time. And then once you get better at it, you might find that fun because of how good you are at it. Like, I really love math, but another reason I love math is because I was so freaking good at it. Creative Brush and Tiffany Alvord asked similar things. So the first question is how to handle perfectionism and overthinking and imposter syndrome. The second question is how to deal with imposter syndrome constantly getting in the way of your progress. For those who don't know, from Oxford Languages, here is the definition of imposter syndrome. Noun, imposter syndrome. The persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. Overall, it means when you don't feel enough, that no matter what position you're in, you feel like you don't deserve it or you gotta do more, things like that. Definitely relatable. I did not feel like I belonged at Caltech sometimes because everyone around me was very, very smart. But then what helped was I realized if I think Caltech's so smart and if Caltech admissions is smart, then admitting me was not a mistake. There's a reason why I am here. And actually, I can go back into my cookie jar and point out the reasons I am here. So I think the question to ask yourself is, it's not what you got, but it's how you got it. Because when people achieve something and they actually didn't earn it, well, that person should be feeling imposter syndrome because they are an imposter. But if you can think back and you think, this achievement, I can see how I got it. That was hard. I am a different person having this position than I was before at the start of that journey. Yeah, then you deserve it. If the how matches the what, then you deserve it. We tend to focus on the next step and what we have to do next, which is really hard, but we forget that was meant to sound inspirational, but I messed up. No longer a great one-liner. We tend to focus on our next steps and how much harder the thing we do next will be, that we forget about all the achievements and things we've overcome in the past. Yeah, we always have that growth mindset, right? We're always like, better, better, better. But how far have you already come? What things have you done that you are proud of? The reason you are finding things so hard right now is because you believe in your potential to try to be better. Because if you didn't care about your potential and you thought that you were actually a slump, then you wouldn't be trying all these hard things. You wouldn't have put yourself in this harder position. You wouldn't give yourself these goals. The fact that you set those goals, or you are now in this hard job position, or you are in this difficult school, means that you had belief in your potential. You are already different by planting that seed of having that amazing goal in your mind. When I had imposter syndrome, I would just try to prove that voice wrong by acting. It's a great way to act on it. Another insecurity I had / feeling of undeservedness was when I started being invited to more social events, and I was like, but I'm so awkward. Why am I here? Why am I invited? Like, actually, maybe this isn't me. I was a shy and quiet person. I'm not really someone who can just like go into a party and like talk to strangers. But that's the moment of forcing to get over that first lump, to get over the activation energy. I thought about what my ideal self would do, and I did it. I pushed myself to go talk to that stranger, and boom, it was a great result. Not that scary at all. So I just proved that I was not an imposter. So those voices and overthinking, I just proved that those were wrong. So you've got to have a bias toward action, and also use exposure therapy. The more you're exposed to that thing you thought you can't do, the more you try it, the more you'll find, hey, it's not so bad. With perfectionism also gets in the way of progress. Have priorities. If your mental health and your physical health and your time is your priority, then maybe getting something to 110% isn't that important. It's all about what you value and whether you're acting in alignment with those values. I want you to tell yourself that your mental health and your physical health and all those other things are more important than getting something to 110%. Perfectionism, it's hard because I understand. I'm finding it, you guys are asking some great questions. Got me stumped. A great way, I think, to answer questions is to pull in my own experience of how I dealt with it. So with YouTube videos, it could get more perfect, but I just think, is this somewhere that has a high impact? Is this a high impact lever? So think of like a room full of 10 levers. See, perfect would be like you pull all of them. You're like, all the levers have to be perfect and pulled and used and done in some way. But you try and get smart about it and be like, you know what? I'm smart. I'm going to try and be efficient. Which levers have the highest value? And let me pull those, because that can get me to 99%, whereas the last 1% might be the hardest lever to pull of all, but it's not worth it. Being able to detect that just comes from experience and time. So start with prioritizing your health first. And also understand that if you're spending too long perfecting one assignment or one task, then you're losing time on the other tasks, and that can't be perfect either. So redefine your definition of perfection. Perfection instead is being efficient and effective, finding the highest value areas and understanding what you value, what your priorities are, and then just focus on those. One more idea about this. If perfectionism is preventing you from starting, then it's all about a weighing of two things. That relates to what I said earlier, too. It's about weighing, maybe you're scared to fail, But aren't you more scared of regret? You could fail 9 times, but then the 10th one is success. So are you scared of failing 9 times with 1 success? Or are you more scared of having 0 success and wondering forever what could have happened? Side note, that does not directly relate to this question, but it's about weighing of 2 things. It's about distractions, because I think that many of us struggle with distractions in this very distracting world with so many ads and social media and influencers throwing stuff at us. Yeah, I get it. We might be curious about what happens in that video. Wow, what an interesting thumbnail. I do wonder what the biggest slug in the world looks like. I do wonder what a $100,000 hot dog tastes like. We can be curious, but aren't you more curious about your potential? Aren't you more curious about your upper limit? So instead, weigh those things. When you're curious about something, be like, you know what? I'm curious about that. Mr. Beast is very enticing, but I am more curious about things in my own life. You can't get me, Mr. Beast, no matter how great your thumbnails and titles are. Okay, finally, a really amazing question. These are all amazing questions. This was actually asked on my main channel. It's from In-Stan. I don't personally listen to Un-, but I think I've heard a few songs and they're pretty awesome. Pretty long comment, so I'll actually add this to the left side. To the visual listeners, I am putting the comments on the screen as well. They say, I greatly appreciate that you make your videos for us. Thank you. I always love when you appreciate my hard work. They say, all my life I've thought that being successful was important, but now I feel that value is limiting me. I'm so focused on getting into a top 10 school that I'm streamlining my activities and studies to look impressive. I'm not able to try out new activities in the fear of being bad at them or them not looking good on my application. What's your opinion on this? Do you think getting into a top 10 school matters that much? Or is decently ranked school okay, as long as you make use of your opportunities and become as good as you could have been at that top 10 school? This has become a new fear in me. If I don't get into that top 10 school, has everything I've done gone to waste? Will I not be as successful as others? I've been dying to ask this question and finally got a chance to. Again, thank you for making this video. : big D for a smiley face. Thank you so much for sharing that and being so vulnerable. I feel like there's so much pressure on everyone these days. I don't know how the world is going, but everything is harder. Kids are working way harder than they were when I was a kid. Now I'm aging myself again. I am still a kid at heart. Students have to have way more accolades and achievements to get into college. And American parents, when they go on my channel, they comment, wow, you did all that and you still didn't get into Stanford? I only did this and I got in. And it just used to be easier. And I feel like if I had had the pressure of getting into a top 10 school, then I would have been a lot more stressed in winter breaks and things, but I didn't personally even have that goal until it came time to apply. So I digress, but I'm just saying you are doing great. Things are really tough for the younger generations, like getting tougher and tougher and more stressful. And I don't want to say that like to scare you, but I just want to reassure that you feeling this fear is completely normal. I have so many friends who didn't go into a top 10 school and they're doing amazing. It's all about the person you are. Like I said in an earlier answer, it's not so much about the what you earned, but it's how you earned it. So if you are the kind of person who can earn a spot at a top 10 school and who deserves it because hundreds maybe thousands of students who deserve those spots get rejected every year. If you are someone who is top 10 school material or, top 20 school, these rankings are arbitrary, by the way. Well, you will be amazing because you are top 10 school material, so whatever you do in the future will be affected by your top 10 characteristics. Like, you probably have attributes and skills that will take you farther. The reason people want to go to top 10 schools is because people's perceptions toward them. So number one, it can help. Like a shiny Harvard on a resume certainly makes people's eyes light up, right? And unfortunately, a lot of jobs specifically look for Ivy League students because the clout makes them look good as a company as well. Another reason people care about top 10 schools is because perhaps the alumni network is stronger. There might be more resources that you may not get at other schools, but that doesn't matter nearly as much as who you are, because if someone goes to Stanford and they're not as amazing as you, well, those resources they have at Stanford are useless. But instead, if by chance you don't go to a top 10 school, you're still going to be a rock star. I believe that 100%. When you're streamlining your activities and pursuits to look impressive, I think that you can try new activities and still look impressive, because colleges understand you're young, you don't have life figured out, even though they really pressure students to do that nowadays, don't they? But if you show growth and curiosity, that can also be an amazing story as well. Like, maybe your passion is exploring what you love in life, and maybe you document what you're learning from each of the new activities you're trying. Also, it depends on what year in school you are, but try a new activity. It doesn't have to be like a 6-month commitment, but if you try it a little and see some potential, then there you go. You can turn that into something you make more and more impressive. If you try and fit into boxes that you think colleges will like, then you might even be putting yourself at a disadvantage, because then you don't stand out as much. Then everyone starts looking the same. So what's most important is, like, you gotta reach into yourself. You gotta find yourself, who you want to be. I think if you care about yourself and your potential, you would I'm getting too excited, so now my one-liners are messed up. When you believe in your potential and you care about finding yourself, your strengths and quote-unquote unfair advantages, you're going to inevitably be increasing your human capital. And your human capital is what matters at the end of the day, because that is going to make you unstoppable. When you become resilient and you have certain skills and attitudes, you gain experiences and soft skills, ability to deal with different situations, difficult situations. That's what makes you unstoppable. It's not going to a top 10 school. Because there are plenty of people who go to top schools and they do not look so impressive. Not now. So, yeah, I believe everyone should trust a little bit more in their own ability and embrace that you are this unique person that came into this world, that your life is a miracle. This combination of genetics is meant for something. Like, for example, I have migraines and that sucks, but now I believe, hey, in a way, overcoming that was a gift, because now I can share my struggles with other people and show, no matter how hard things may be, that doesn't say anything about your potential. The only limit is yourself. You are the only thing limiting yourself. Amazing job. The sun has come out from the clouds and I did not reapply sunscreen, so I have to go put it on now so I do not get wrinkles when I am older. Wear sunscreen, kids. I did not know this for so long, that you should always wear sunscreen every single day. Protect your skin. That's the number one thing that can make your skin anti-aging. It's the number one thing you can do. Like, you can put on all the skincare you want, but if you don't use sunscreen, then see, that is a great example for the perfectionism question. See, sunscreen is a higher value lever to pull. And other skincare things like, using niacinamide every night, that is a lower value lever. So you don't have to be perfect with your skincare routine, but just make sure you have the big ones taken care of. Okay, great job. I am currently wedding planning, so it's been so fun, but also stressful because it's like another full-time job. I think I will start adding wedding planning updates to the end of the videos. Maybe it's like 5 to 10 minutes at the end of each podcast episode, just to keep you in the loop of how things are going. And I think this is super exciting. I was so lost about wedding planning. I don't think someone needs to create like a step-by-step manual. All the information is so disparate and it's very complicated. So yeah, it's a once in a lifetime experience. And even if you're too young to think about love or not specifically interested in wedding planning, it'll still be interesting going on this journey with me because I'm lost too. Okay. Wow, it's raining and sunny at the same time. That means rainbow. Yay! Great end to this Q&A episode. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. Let me know if you would like another one soon. And again, thank you for all your support. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye. Hearts.